Hello friends, hope you're well. TechManPat here. Today we are reviewing this, the TCL 20 SE mobile phone that goes for 299 Australian dollars. An incredible value with facial recognition, a thumbprint on the back, 48 megapixel camera, you'll soon find out if the pictures are good, and of course a 5,000 milliamp battery, something of a staple for a lot of Android phones. Long battery life. Stay tuned for the review of this interesting, magnificent budget, but is it any good phone? Make sure to like this video if you did and subscribe to support us and get notified of every video. Big thanks for TCL for sending me this phone for review. Let's roll the intro. There's a lot to talk about this phone. We're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the naughty. There's a lot to say about it all because this is a $299 Android full smartphone, and you could almost say it is high spec. Not really, but almost. It's actually $297 at Officeworks with 128 gigs of storage. It comes in also 256 and 512. The main idea of this phone is that it is budget orientated, but comes with specs that are almost out of this world. 48 megapixel camera, HD resolution, brilliant 6.8 inch screen, absolutely magnificent, absolutely fantastic in regards to its color recreation. It's not overburdened with really bright colors or over saturated. It's really good, just right. And there is some technology in there that you can enable to improve it a little bit more and make it a little bit more saturated, that classic Samsung look. But nonetheless, I left it as default and looked really good. It also has facial recognition. How cool is that? It has a fingerprint on the back and it comes with a 5,000 milliamp battery. That means that the life of this phone in regards to your day-to-day use is more than a day in itself. I found to be using about 2 days battery before I wanted to put it on charge because it was at 20% and I was going somewhere, but it is also fairly good at charging rather quickly. So that's the good, and let's keep going with the good. The camera is pretty darn good too. Good being the operative word here. There are some moments that the camera was just not getting the picture that I wanted to capture, and it took a few tries. The AI in the back end that you might get on other phones just wasn't there to enhance the photos as well. But coming back to it, I thought to myself, as a $299 phone, this has some of the best pictures I've ever taken on a phone priced at that level. I usually recommend the Realme phones at $500 to $600, and right now I can say that even if that budget is a little bit too much for you, $299, this will do really well for photos and videos. Here's a little test. This is the front camera, and right now I'm just talking to it, and I wanted you guys to see how the audio sounds and also the movement, because it's not high refresh rate, it's not 60 frames, it is 30. So as you can see, as my hand moves around, it's a little bit glaring. So you might not use this to make movies, but it's good enough for a video call or Facebook or whatever you might be using at the time. And this is the back camera at 1080p 30 frames a second. It's unfortunately not 4K, and it's unfortunately not 60 frames, which means 30 will have to stick. The video that you're gonna take might be a little bit unsmooth. There might be some motion blur in there. I think for somebody who's paying $299, this is actually really good quality for video. So while the video is not something to write home about, it's certainly good enough for a user day to day. It's certainly enough for grandparents to take a bit of a film when they're looking after your kids or your most precious puppies. I think it'll be good enough for folks in that space. But if you're a young chap or gal who wants to take videos for TikTok, you know, it's not going to look the best. That screen does make it really nice. It also is a little bit hard to reach the buttons because of its size, so if you don't like big phones, this is probably not for you. But I personally do love the screen size, and I will give up a little bit of comfortability reaching those buttons for it. With my thumb as I text, I can generally reach that locking button, but the sound I have to potentially use my other hand or navigate the whole phone into a different way of holding it. On the top, we also have a button for the camera, so I can of course press it, it opens up the camera, or you can set it to open up other things. The facial unlock is pretty quick. I don't know if it's as safe as Face ID. I probably shouldn't compare it because it's completely different technology. This one uses the camera to see your face and make sure it's the right one, while on the back, the fingerprint is probably what you should use to unlock financial apps. Yes, you can put your payment details into this phone and pay and tap in most Australian places, which is brilliant. You don't have to carry around your wallet. Good on you, TCL. The phone has 2 SIM card slots plus an extended memory card slot that you can use in here. Brilliant. Of course, you're not really traveling at the moment, so one could be a data SIM and the other one could be a voice and text. Now, speaking of voice and text, texting, absolutely fine. Messaging, you know, it's the Google keyboard. It works really, really well. But phone calls, that was a little bit interesting. The speakers on this phone aren't that great, but I want to get into the bad in a second. The phone calls were good enough to have a conversation with somebody, and dialing was fast enough, it seemed to connect really well, and of course the audio was good enough. People seemed to hear me really well, but there was sometimes when there was a lot of wind, it didn't pick up my voice very well. I know some phones do it a little bit better. This one had a bit of a hard time, but again, I don't think at $299 it's something you can fault it. Speaking of faults, let's talk about the bad. There is some issues with the phone. It's a little bit chunky, it's a little bit heavy, but nonetheless, I think if you drop it, it won't crack straight away. It has a large chin bar at the bottom, but it has a nice teardrop at the top for the camera. That just kind of means it helps with navigating, because when you hold the phone like so, it does mean that your bottom palm could touch the bottom of the screen. And I think the chin kind of helps with that. That's great. It is chunky, but that's because it has a 5,000 milliamp battery, which gives you an all-day battery life. And interesting feature, it still has FM radio, so if you plug in those headphones, you can listen to the radio. They act as a little antenna. Now, the worst of all the bad things about this phone, apart from the video being not that great, but again, for $299, you kind of give and take on this size, is actually the CPU and performance. The performance of this phone is concerning because at moments it's fast. And I have to say, when running one application on the screen, let's say Reddit, or for some of you folks, TikTok or Instagram, Facebook, it works fine. There is some lag at moments, it skips, but it's good enough to the point where you'll notice it, but you won't pay attention because it doesn't happen often enough. However, if you're doing multiple things, let's say you're installing an app or you're playing with a game in the background, you will absolutely notice lag. You will notice how the menu just struggles a little bit. Pulling down the menu from the top is also a struggle when something else is happening on in the background. The CPU is where they really saved the money and provided you with a $299 phone. And that means that there are a compromise that you have to make with the speed of it. It is not the smoothest experience, but at $299, I can forgive it. But if you're providing this phone, who I think this phone is for, which is the naughty part, because it's for the folks from the noughties, it's for all the folks. I think the large screen and the ability to customize Android to be easy to access and accessibility features of Android makes this phone my #1 choice for your grandparents or even parents who don't really need to use the phone over anything more than maybe WhatsApp and Facebook and Twitter, because you gotta get on Twitter, right? And take some photos of the kids, take some phone calls, have a large screen that they can tap away and read everything that you send them. Easy to use once it's set up. This is the phone that I would recommend, because that price of $299, you cannot beat that right now. TCL has gone after the market that has been almost left out. Big, user-accessible phones that provide enough of an experience to not bother people. A very stylish, good-looking phone with some great features. I think this is the perfect phone at the $299 mark. Friends, thank you very much for watching. I hope this video helped you decide if the TCL 20 SE is the right budget phone for you or your loved ones. Make sure to like this video if you did, subscribe if you want to support us, and I'll see you all in another video. Thank you very much. Bye!